Everybody. So we have people online and in the room, and I'm very grateful that you're all here. My name is Kim Durham-Norman, and I work as the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Princeton Public Library. I'm delighted to welcome Not in Our Town Princeton here, as we do on the first Monday, or when there's a holiday weekend, the first Tuesday of the month, for continuing conversations on race and white privilege. Just a few housekeeping notes before we begin the program. This room is T-coiled and enabled, so we ask everybody who's presenting, not during the breakout conversations, but if you're speaking to the group at large, to use the microphone. That makes it easier for everybody to hear. People who have a T-coil enabled hearing device can turn that on now. They would not be able to hear if you're not speaking through the microphone, and it also just makes it easier for everyone to hear. And with that, I'm happy to introduce Joyce Troutman-Jordan, who will share the mission statement and land acknowledgement. Joyce.
Thank you, Kim. Our land acknowledgement. The land on which we are living is part of the ancient homeland and traditional territory of the Lenni Lenape people. We pay respect to the Lenni Lenape people, past, present, and future, and their continuing presence in their homeland and in the diaspora. We also acknowledge the millions of enslaved Africans and their descendants on whose backs the wealth of this nation was created. Not in Our Town Princeton is a multiracial, multi-faith group of individuals who stand together for racial justice and inclusive communities. Our focus is to promote the equitable treatment of all and to uncover and confront white supremacy, the system that facilitates the preference, privilege, and power of white people at the expense of non-white people, and pits racial and ethnic groups against each other by upholding hierarchies based on proximity to whiteness. Our goal is to identify and expose the political, economical, and cultural systems which have enabled white supremacy to flourish, and to create new structures and policies which will ensure equity and inclusion for all. In our commitment to uncovering the blight of white supremacy on our humanity, we take responsibility to address it and to eliminate it in all its forms through intentional actions, starting with ourselves and our communities. Thank you.
You're both physically in the room and in the virtual room online. My name is Shelley Krause, and I'm a member of the Not in Our Town Princeton board. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity this evening to welcome our guests. Tonight's program is spearheaded by the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights, which strives to prevent and address bias crimes and bias incidents by training individuals across all 21 counties of New Jersey, including community leaders and members on alternative dispute resolution and best practices for responding to bias incidents. And in fact, we're going to hear about some case studies this evening, as well as learning about the work of the peace building process. Our two guests and presenters this evening are Ms. Fannie Chen Jarvis and Ms. Patricia Williamson. Fannie Chen Jarvis recently joined the New Jersey Department of for Community Relations Unit, the Department of Civil Rights Community Relations Unit, and serves as the primary liaison to the API communities. She received both her Bachelor of Arts and Master of Public Administration from New York University. Originally from New York City's Chinatown, she proudly identifies as the descendant of immigrants, laborers, American veterans, and community advocates. Carrying on the family tradition of activism and public service, Fannie has a professional background in education and government, where she worked on public policy, community relations, and project management. Since moving to New Jersey about 10 years ago with her family, Fannie has been invested in local advocacy and community building efforts, and we welcome her here this evening. Joining Fannie Chen Jarvis is Patricia Williamson, who is a community relations specialist and community mediator in the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights Community Relations Crisis Response Unit. Patricia is the unit's lead on programming initiatives for race and religion. She is based in Trenton, and her primary counties are Somerset, Warren, Monmouth, Middlesex, Mercer, here, Burlington, and Hunterdon. Prior to this position, Patricia was the New Jersey Courts Project New Jersey Counts Project Director at the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. Patricia led the Institute's work to ensure a complete and accurate count of New Jersey's urban communities in the 2020 census. Patricia has lots of voluntary experience in civic engagement and social justice. She is the immediate past Eastern Regional Social Action Committee coordinator of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where she led the advocacy arm of the regional sorority chapters between Maine and DC, the US Virgin Islands, Germany, the Arabian Gulf, and Southern and Western Africa. Patricia resides in Central New Jersey. She earned a BA in mathematics from Hampton University, a master's in computer science from Howard University, and an MA in education and human development in the Educational Technology Leadership Program at the George Washington University. Please join me in welcoming our presenters this evening and give them your warm attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you to all the organizers in the Not in Our Town Princeton and with the Princeton Public Library. Nice to meet you all this evening. As you can see, Patricia is sharing our PowerPoint presentation. And thank you for the lovely introduction. Again, I am Fannie and my colleague is Patricia. And yes, to answer your dying question, we did color coordinate our outfits this evening, just to add a splash of color to the end of summer, the start of the school year. So Patricia and I are both part of the Community Relations Unit. And so our job is to speak to community groups, to do presentations, to talk to people about your civil rights in New Jersey. And if we could go to the next slide. And for those who are joining us by audio and cannot see the screen, I'll just quickly go over the agenda that's on the screen. We have 6 parts. We'll start off with an introduction to the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights, who we are, what we do. Then we'll give an overview of one of the state's anti-discrimination laws, which is known as the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination, or the LAD. Next, we'll explain the difference between a discrimination, harassment versus a bias crime and offer, as Shelley mentioned earlier, we'll give case examples. Next, we'll go into how to file a complaint with the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights with our NJ Bias Investigation Access System. And of course, as mentioned earlier, we will discuss the Community Peacemaker Collaborative initiative. And then finally, at the end of our presentation, we'll turn it back to the organizers and we will go into discussions in the breakout rooms. Next slide, please. So who we are and what we do. As you can see, hopefully, in 1945, the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights was created. For those who appreciate history, here is the backstory. Almost 80 years ago, as World War II was ending and America's fight against Nazism abroad highlighted for many at home all the evils of racism in our very own backyards, Black New Jersey veterans who were returning, who had risked their lives in Europe, and were rightfully demanding equal treatment. Specifically, Dr. James O. Hill, a state assemblyman from Newark, sponsored the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination, again, the LAD. The LAD was the first state civil rights statute to go into effect and to prevent discrimination in employment. And then it was based on race, creed, color, national origin, and ancestry. The bill at the time was unanimously approved by the legislature, then signed by the governor then, Walter Edge, in April of 1945 and went into immediate effect. Today, the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights, or as we call DCR, falls under the New Jersey's Department of Law and Public Safety, which is housed under the Office of the New Jersey Attorney General. The Attorney General, who is currently Matthew Placken, is appointed by the New Jersey Governor, Phil Murphy. Under their leadership, the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights mission is to prevent and eliminate bias, prejudice, and discrimination in New Jersey. Their vision is for a New Jersey where all people are treated equally. New Jersey Division on Civil Rights, we are the state agency that enforces 3 key anti-discrimination laws. As mentioned, the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination. This, as mentioned earlier, this is one of the, I did mention it. It is one of the strongest anti-discrimination laws in the country. And as our director, Sandeep Iyer, recently stated, we remain committed to enforcing these robust protections that the LAD provides. The second law that the DCR enforces is the New Jersey Family Leave Act, or known as NJFLA. This offers job-protected leave. The broad strokes of the act states that employees can generally take up to 12 months of job-protected leave during any 24-month period under prescribed circumstances. Detailed information about the NJFLA, which is separate from the federal act, can be found on our website. And if you could commit this to memory, njcivilrights.gov. Again, njcivilrights.gov. We'll repeat that throughout this presentation. The third anti-discrimination law in New Jersey is the Fair Chance in Housing Act, or FCHA. Again, broad strokes, this act states that a housing provider, be it a landlord, a home seller, or a dormitory, is prohibited from asking about a rental applicant's criminal history on an initial application. Detailed information about the Fair Chance in Housing Act can again be found on our website, njcivilrights.gov. Anyone, including folks joining us this evening, who believes that their rights under these laws have been violated may file a civil rights complaint with the New Jersey Division of Civil Rights. And later in this presentation, Patricia will go into more details on how to file a complaint with DCR. Next slide, please. So the law against discrimination makes it unlawful to subject people to discrimination or harassment in these different areas. In areas of employment, housing and real estate, places of public accommodations, which could be, a park, a restaurant, a hotel, etc. And the final area is in credit and contracting. The law against discrimination protects residents based on their protected categories, which there are over 20 of them. In the next slide, we'll go into them as well. So this is quite an extensive list. As mentioned earlier, the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination is one of the broadest in the country. Okay, so some of the protected categories include disability, race, color, religion, creed, national origin, nationality or ancestry, gender or sex, gender identity or expression, sexual or affectional, sexual or affectional orientation, pregnancy, breastfeeding or chest feeding, liability for service in the U.S. military, marital civil union or domestic partnership status, and in some cases, familial status in housing, age in employment, genetic information in employment, and finally, lawful source of income. Almost everyone in New Jersey falls into at least one of these listed protected categories. Most folks actually fall into multiple protected categories because of our intersecting identities. Take a moment and think of your own identity and which protected categories you fall into. As you reflect, please also note that the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination protects both your actual or perceived protected categories. So allow me to explain a little bit further. So here's a hypothetical. If an employer is creating a hostile work environment for you because she thinks you're Mormon, but you're actually Jewish, your rights may have been violated and you can file a complaint with the New Jersey Division of Civil Rights. Religion is a protected category under the Law Against Discrimination. Thus, in this scenario, the employer is violating your rights because of their perception of your religion. It does not matter in this scenario, what is your actual religion? The law against discrimination makes it unlawful to subject people to harassment and discrimination based on both your perceived and protected and actual protected categories. Later in this presentation, we'll share additional examples of how the New Jersey law against discrimination protects New Jerseyans. Next slide, please. So now here with this slide, we go a little bit more into detail about the protections under the LAD, the law against discrimination, within one of the areas. This specifically, the slide is, we're talking about in employment. The LAD prohibits discrimination in all aspects of employment, including, but not limited to, and I'll read a few of the bullet points on this slide: recruitment, job postings, interviews, and hiring decisions, as well as promotions and terminations, compensation, including salary and benefits, all terms and conditions with your employment, as well as your membership in a union. Oh, okay. Next slide. Thank you, Patricia. The next area is housing. So the law against discrimination protects you from discrimination in housing. The law states that it is illegal for a housing provider to discriminate, harass you when you are renting or buying a home. Again, this includes residential halls or dorms on campuses or universities. Landlords and real estate professionals cannot refuse to lease to you, deny you access to financial services, charge you a higher rent because of one of your protected categories, offer you different amenities, or refuse to make generally required repairs because of your protected category. Housing providers must also reasonably accommodate your request, unless doing so is an undue burden on their operations. Accommodate your request based on medically or otherwise documented needed accommodations. I hope that was clear. The next slide, please. The final area that we'll cover this evening is how is the LAD within places of public accommodation. So the LAD prohibits discrimination in places of public accommodation, including schools, colleges, and universities, stores and businesses, summer camps, restaurants, hotels and motels, medical providers, hospitals and doctors' offices, as well as government offices, agencies, and police departments. Generally, any place that offers goods or services or facilities to the public. Thank you, Patricia. Next slide. And so one thing we want to make clear is that not all bias incidents of harassment or discrimination are bias crimes, but all bias crimes are bias incidents. And we'll explain that further as Patricia takes over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fannie. Just a moment. So we're going to talk a little bit now about the law against discrimination in terms of discrimination and harassment. And first thing I want to mention is that we have civil investigations by the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. Acts of discrimination or harassment that violate the law against discrimination, the LAD, those are civil rights violations. Those are directly towards your personal civil rights. They focus on whether the employer, the housing provider, or place of public accommodation knew about the bias-based harassment and took appropriate steps to address or stop it. So here are 3 examples of discrimination or harassment based on the LAD. The first one is a place of public accommodation. DCR has issued a finding of probable cause against a provider of mental health services after DCR's investigation found that the provider failed to accommodate the complainant, a person with hearing loss who needed sign language interpretation services. Under the LAD, places of public accommodation are required to make reasonable accommodations necessary to allow a person with a disability an equal opportunity to participate in or access the full benefits of respondent services, programs, or activities, unless doing so would be an undue burden on its operations. In this case, the provider's failure to accommodate the complainant prevented her from receiving mental health care for approximately 6 months. The housing example is as follows. A Union County housing provider ignored the tenant's medically documented need for emotional support animals, imposed a fine, and tried to have the tenant evicted for violating its, quote, no pets, quote, unquote, policy. Under the LAD, a housing provider cannot apply a no pets policy to prohibit emotional support animals. The employment example is on the right. A gay man alleged that his employer, a restaurant with multiple locations across New Jersey, subjected him to a hostile work environment based on his sexual orientation. The employee alleged that when he requested that his manager approve his request for medical leave for a scheduled surgery, the manager asked if the employee was going to have a sex change operation and, quote, cut it off, unquote. The employee then requested and received a demotion so that he could be transferred to a different restaurant location where he would not have to interact with the manager who made the offensive comment. The employee, however, was terminated once a management official at the new location that he wanted to be transferred to learned that he was scheduled for a medical leave of absence. DCR's investigation found probable cause that the restaurant violated the LAD by denying the employee the transfer to the new restaurant because of his upcoming medical leave and subjected him to a hostile work environment in light of his manager's demeaning and disparaging comments. You can find more information about these through our press releases, which are on our website. And just want to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. You may find both of them as of this year. The housing example is from July 25th, 2023. The press release is Attorney General Platkin, Division on Civil Rights, takes enforcement actions to combat disability discrimination. And then the employment example, the source is from June 30th, 2023, where the press release was with the Attorney General Platkin, Division on Civil Rights takes enforcement action to combat LGBTQIA+ discrimination. So let's look for a few moments at bias crimes. Criminal investigations by the New Jersey Division on Criminal Justice, the county prosecutor and or the local police department, they are the ones that handle bias crimes, and we call them DCJ. Bias crimes are criminal offenses that are committed against a person, private property, or public property because of several of the protected classes that we've mentioned through DCR, which are listed here with race, color, religion, gender, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, national origin, or ethnicity. Bias crimes focus on the individual perpetrator and whether or not the crime is committed with the purpose to intimidate a member of a protected class or knowing that the conduct would intimidate a member of a protected class. At this point, we would like to talk to you about the New Jersey Bias Investigation Access System in case you'd like to file a complaint on the Division on Civil Rights online portal. The website to remember is at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, which is bias.njcivilrights.gov. The first thing you need to do in terms of the DCR intake process is to complete our form online with bias.njcivilrights.gov, or you call DCR for assistance, 1-833-NJ-DCR4U, or 711 relay. Complaints must be filed within 180 days of the incident and fall within DCR's jurisdiction. The interview is the process to determine if DCR has jurisdiction over the complaint. A DCR intake specialist will interview you and ask additional questions regarding the submitted intake form. After your interview, if we determine jurisdiction, this form is prepared by the DCR intake specialist for your review, and it's called a verified complaint. Your signature is required to continue further. And then the respondent is served. DCR will serve the verified complaint on the employer, the housing provider, or the entity that you identified. Then the respondent has a chance to respond with their version of events. If we do not have jurisdiction, we will issue a no jurisdiction notification. There's a little bit more in this process, and this part is called the DCR investigations. DCR will interview you, the complainant, the respondent, which is the employer, the housing provider, the entity, etc., and witnesses. There's a review of relevant documents, photos, and video recordings. And at the end of the investigation, if the parties have not reached a mutually agreeable resolution to the complaint, DCR will determine whether there is probable cause to believe a violation of the LAD occurred. If DCR believes a violation did occur, it will prosecute the violation in court or the Office of Administrative Law. At the conclusion of the case, DCR can order monetary damages to the victim and equitable relief. It is important to note that retaliation is prohibited. In terms of the resolution, DCR will determine what is possible. Hopefully, a mutually agreeable resolution, that is one option. But again, the finding of probable cause, evidence substantiates a violation of the LAD, NJFLA, and or the FCHA. And DCR will take the case to either the Office of Administrative Law or Superior Court. The finding of no probable cause means evidence does not substantiate a violation of the LAD, NJFLA, and or FCHA, and the case is closed. That is our process. And Fannie, am I turning this back to you? No, not yet? No problem. Okay. So we're going to pivot now from the complaint to the Community Peacemaker Collaborative. And this is brand new. This is exciting for us. We want to talk to you a little bit more about peacemaking. So what is peacemaking? Peacemaking is the facilitation of neutral and impartial communication and negotiation. And we want to also talk about this in the context of mediation. Mediation is a process in which a neutral and impartial third party facilitates communication and negotiation while promoting voluntary decision-making by the parties to a dispute. In New Jersey, we seek community leaders, whether individuals or within organizations, to collaborate as volunteer community peacemakers, as yourselves. The peacemaker skills one will learn will encompass techniques and strategies to address difficult matters regarding topics of the law against discrimination. With these learned skills, one will utilize eclectic and innovative approaches to community problem solving, utilizing skills of mediation, conflict resolution, de-escalation, and verbal interventions. Additionally, increased focus on the use of body language and nonverbal cues, being indicators of tension rising. We will incorporate strategies to de-escalate immediate matters to continue positive community growth through dialogue. We have a graphic here that explains that a little bit as well. You can see, always try to answer, what is your why? What is the why? And so we have the why in the center of having a statewide coalition. The why is positive change. The why is to empower communities. And the why also includes local resources. So you have the local level, you have the statewide level, and you want to make sure that you have the opportunity and the ability to have positive change and empower your communities. So we would love for you to join us. And CPC, we have so many acronyms, but we're adding a new one to you called Community Peacemaker Collaborative, CPC. And we've put over here just a summary in terms of saying a CPC is a statewide coalition of county-level community members. CPC, community leaders as trained peacemakers. CPC, peaceful resolutions, community mediation. And CPC, peacemakers affect positive systemic change.
I can take it from here, Patricia.
Okay, so here we are. Okay, we'll go to
Thank you.
Fannie.
Yeah. So we'll pivot again. I know we've shared a lot of information, but this is why we're here. We are a wealth of information, and we do hope you'll get something out of tonight's presentation. At the Division on Civil Rights, in addition to our unit, Community Relations Unit, as you perhaps have surmised from Patricia's part of the presentation, we also have an investigations unit. Another unit within the Division on Civil Rights is our Education and Training Unit, and they offer free trainings online. You just need to register for them, and they include the topics, hair discrimination, to the topics we talked about this evening, discrimination in housing and in the workplace. Also, other topics include affirming LGBTQIA+ identities in schools, recognizing and responding to microaggressions, and finally, understanding implicit bias. These topics are just a handful of the topics that the Education and Training Unit provides. Again, if you want to register for these free trainings, you go simply to our website, which is njcivilrights.gov/trainings. Next slide. Thank you, Patricia. So we invite everyone this evening and beyond to stay connected with the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. We have on this slide different ways to stay connected. Our website, which once again, if you haven't committed it to memory, it is njcivilrights.gov. Our email follows the same suffix, njcivilrights.gov. But to reach the Community Relations Unit, very simply, the email is communityrelations@njcivilrights.gov. We, of course, are modern, and you can find us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter with the handle @CivilRightsNJ. And as Patricia mentioned, we can also be reached by phone, and that number is 1-833, again, 1-833-NJ DCR for Division on Civil Rights, NJDCR 4, the number 4U. Once again, number 1-833-NJDCR 4U. Or you can reach us by 711 relay. Patricia and I, of course, can also be reached through the community relations email or directly at our own emails. And you just follow the formula, first name dot last name at njcivilrights.gov. So that's patricia.williamson@njcivilrights.gov, fannie.chan.jarvis@njcivilrights.gov. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So we are at the conclusion of our presentation. We want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. Thank you to Not in Our Town Princeton and the Princeton Public Library, again, for inviting us to do this presentation. Thank you especially to Connie for reaching out to the New Jersey Division of Civil Rights. And we hope to connect with you and with everyone else in the near future. Okay. We do need to state for the record that we, Patricia and I, and all employees of the New Jersey Division on Civil Rights do not provide legal counsel or legal advice, and we do not comment on ongoing investigations or litigation. In closing, we hope you learned something new about your civil rights. We invite you to stay connected with the New Jersey Division of Civil Rights. That's fine. Whether it's by following us on social media, or if we could actually, Patricia, go back to that other slide. Yeah, that's my bad. I should have. Actually, one more to the Stay Connected page. Thank you. She's our tech guru. Okay, so we invite you to stay connected with New Jersey Division on Civil Rights. Thank you, Patricia. Whether it's following us on social media at Civil Rights NJ or going onto our website, njcivilrights.gov, we hope you'll dive deeper and learn more about your civil rights under the state's anti-discrimination laws. We invite you to also stay tuned to DCR's initiatives and upcoming trainings. And of course, please do contact DCR if you wish to file a civil rights complaint or you have a concern. As we like to say, New Jersey Division on Civil Rights is here for you. Now I'll turn it back to the organizers to facilitate the breakout room discussions.
Thanks so much. And I just wanted to note that Fern Sproul, who's of the Princeton Civil Rights Commission, is attending virtually, and she said that she's done 3 sessions on behalf of civil rights, and wanted everyone to know that you get a certificate at the completion of the course. Do you get a certificate at the completion of the course? Fern felt you did.
With certain ones, if you are part of a professional association. So for example, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Patricia, for specific trainings with housing, if you're a real estate professional, there may be real estate credit.
There are certain trainings that we provide primarily through the education and training unit that do have certificates attached to them. We can come back and determine certainly if this particular training would have a certificate.
But you'll spot. Okay, well, thank you all so much. Thank you both so mumuch for presenting, sharing about the lab and the new initiative. It's very exciting. Was there something you wanted to say, Penny?
Yes, I just noticed in my notes that I forgot to mention one thing, if I could jump in here before you take over. On our website, njcivilrights.gov, you can also find guidance documents, including addressing bias in K-12 schools and on campus and universities. You can also find the recent report exposing white supremacy in New Jersey. And finally, New Jersey Division on Civil Rights, we also run a youth ambassador program, which is civil rights training for youth ages, I believe 13 through 19. The application deadline is, I believe, next Friday, September 15th. Again, more details, including the application, are available on DCR's website. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Shelley, should I bring up the community grievance?
That'd be great.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson and Fannie Jarvis for a really good clap.